Hello everybody, this is Dragonzilla1991 here, and today/tonight, depending on what time it is when you're watching this video, I will be taking a look at 3 of the very first organisms to ever evolve in the Cambrian period 500 million years ago, even though one of them actually didn't evolve until the Ordovician millions of years later, but all 3 are from the same company, which is Collecta. And the reasons for this is because this year, 2025, marks the 20th anniversary to the series Walking with Monsters, Life Before Dinosaurs, which was released all the way back in late 2005, just over 20 years ago. And so I thought that it would be suitable to look at some of the creatures who starred in the series, with some exceptions. For this review I will be talking about the Arthropods who appeared in episode 1, next time will be the Palaeozoics, and then to finish off, after that will be the Gorgonopsids. However, in between there may be an interruption, because this year also marks the 20th anniversary to the 2005 Peter Jackson reimagining of King Kong, as that premiered at the same time as the series. First up is basically one of the icons of prehistory, along with some particular species of dinosaurs and the mammoth, and that is the trilobite. However, this species is known as Redelicia rex, and because rex is the Latin word for king, I'm guessing that this one was one of the larger types. But for the trilobites who appeared in the series, it wasn't revealed on what species they were, because they were never name dropped in the episode. So figure itself, and first I would like to bring up the colour scheme, because when we think of trilobites, we tend to picture them in brown. However, this particular model is what I would only describe as tan earthy green, and the feelers, eyes and spines appear to be a reddish orange colour. Looking at the animal's structure, the first thing that will come to mind would be woodlouse, as trilobites do look like giant woodlices, and I believe that they may have been the ancestors to all invertebrates, from crustaceans to arachnids to insects. But it's not just their bodies that make them look so strange. In fact, to me, what makes trilobites so alien looking would be their compound eyes, because the eyes on many trilobite fossils have been well preserved, so we know what they looked like. And of course you have the legs underneath, which make them the most woodlouse. So overall, I really do like Collecta's interpretation of the trilobite, aka Redelicia rex, and I even have an actual trilobite fossil in the collection. I meant to get it out, but I forgot, so I took this quick picture on my phone. Anyway, whether you love or hate invertebrates, you can't deny that this figure is just really lovely. Arthropod number 2 is what has got to be possibly the most bizarre alien-looking animal that terrorized the Cambrian seas and ate trilobites for dinner, and the identity of Earth's first super predator is Anomalocaris. Now there have been models of this carnivore before, but to my knowledge many of them have mostly been either model kits, toys or gastropods, to which one I do have in the collection, and I do plan to talk about that and the other dino tail miniatures at some point in the future. But it has been any decent looking figure that's been on the more educational side, not counting model kits, until now. So the colour scheme for the figure, I'm kinda mixed on. On one hand I like it, however at the same time I don't. I like it because it's red, which is one of my favourite colours, and it does look really nice on the Anomalocaris, but at the same time I don't like it because it looks as if the animal has been boiled alive. And the colour scheme that I would have gone for would have been dark blue, as seen on the Walking with Monsters interpretation of the animal. However, this may be for merchandise purposes. What makes Anomalocaris so terrifying would be the appendages, that were its weapons to catch either trilobites or any other animals, or to fight off rivals and enemies, and they're pretty darn lethal looking. And like the trilobite that we looked at earlier, he too has compound eyes. However, I have noticed that he has what appears to be pupils. Now to my knowledge, and I could be wrong on this, Anomalocaris did not have pupils in his eyes. Or maybe it did, I don't know, I'm no expert on compound eyes. However, if anybody knows then please tell me. And on the side he has the things that would have acted as rudders to help make the animal swim. A few years ago when collectors started making prehistoric invertebrates, Anomalocaris was on the top of the request list, along with the Eurypterids. And this model is just pure perfection. I'm mixed on the colour scheme, but for an animal that doesn't really get represented that often, it's one of Collecta's best, in my honest opinion. Okay, I know that no horseshoe crabs were ever seen in Walking with Monsters, but they first did evolve 145 million years ago during the Ordovician. However, they did make a little appearance in the original Walking with Dinosaurs episode 3 Cruel Sea, so in a way they do belong in this video, and thus I love horseshoe crabs. Because these animals are still with us to this day, this figure is bound to be spot on accurate. For starters, you have the colour scheme, which is not identical but fairly similar to the trilobites, which is a green colour. Horseshoe crabs can be seen in green, but some have been seen in grey or red, possibly due to the environment or the genus. When looking at horseshoe crab, you really are looking at an animal from the dawn of time, as they haven't changed for millions of years, and they have even survived everything that nature has thrown at them. They got through the Great Dying of 250 million years ago, the K-T mass extinction incident of 65 million years ago, and they even survived the Ice Age. And because these animals have lasted so well, it really won't surprise me if they'll still keep on going until the end of time. Despite the name, horseshoe crabs are not true crabs, or any form of crustacean at all. They're actually arachnids, and are more closely related to spiders and scorpions. And when you look underneath, you can really see what group of animals they belong to. Safari have done the horseshoe crab for their Incredible Creatures line. It's still around and you can find it on eBay, and it does look really nice, and there's even the odd miniature gashapon, to which I do plan on ordering at some point in the future. However, I personally have a soft spot for the Collecta model, as there was only 2 of prehistoric invertebrates that I was excited for, because at the time, a good majority of them were mainly cephalopods. So overall, what are my final thoughts on Collecta's prehistoric arthropods? Well, I think that they're truly great and will look perfect in any prehistoric collection, and these were from a time when Collecta made all sorts of obscure species from all points of prehistory, but nowadays we tend to get only one animal that only fans and enthusiasts like myself will know, as these days collectors seem more interested in late Cretaceous era dinosaurs only. And I do wish we would go back to the days of having models of all sorts of obscure animals, whether they be Palaeozoic, Mesozoic, to those who lived alongside the dinosaurs, and Cenozoic, because getting a selection of avian and non-avian dinosaurs from the late Cretaceous period over and over again is getting repetitive, and not to mention that it's only going to be a new model of a late Cretaceous dinosaur that I've already got. Anyway, all 3 are great and will be recommendable if you're a fan of prehistoric arthropods, or you're an enthusiast on the Paleozoic like I am. This is Dragonzilla 1991 signing out. Take care, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.